Okay, here we are in Illustrator, and I'm going to go over some of the type tools and so a few other tools that we kind of determined last class that we want to make sure we go over. So, first of all, let's start with our basic type tools. Um, as you know, our posters need to incorporate your name and your bio or keywords that you're going to be using. So, a couple key things when we think about type. Um, we want to make sure we um, try not to overwhelm our user with too many different typefaces in any one piece. Who can tell me how many uh, typefaces should be on any one piece? Does anyone know if there's a rule? Do you have any idea what would be a good rule of thumb? Tifa, yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's no more than three. Is that right?
you are right. That is
Three.
exactly right. Yeah,
Okay.
no more than three. And when I say typeface, and does anyone know the difference between the word typeface or font? Who knows the difference between typeface and font? I'm just realizing I don't see any hands up. Is there anyone that has their hand up? I'm not seeing it if
I
there's.
did.
I think Siobhan had one.
So
Okay.
the typeface is basically the forming of the actual letters and like what makes them unique. And then a font is like a series of them that are put together with that same kind of style across the board. And I might be like missing some stuff, but
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna give you you have something in there that is correct, but you have it opposite. So I'm gonna get a few more folks' ideas and then we'll kind of go reveal that. So typeface and font. Any other thoughts? Okay. Typeface. So Siobhan was saying the font was all the different type of options. I think the way I like to describe typeface and font this way. Typeface is the same as if it was your surname. So in other words, if I designed a typeface, I would design it and I would call it Decker, let's say, right? Like my last name, Decker. So Decker would be the typeface. And then Decker regular, Decker italic, Decker bold, Decker thin, Decker demi, all of those Deckers would be fonts. All the members of my family are fonts. So the surname, the typeface. So here is Futura. Okay, so this typeface is Futura. And I'm going to just make some copies. So I'm going to make some, here's the Futura comes in condensed. Oh, that's our type thing. Let me go this way. Oh, my goodness. There we go. Come on. All right. So type Futura comes in medium. Futura comes in bold. Futura comes in italic. Right. So and many more. But so all of these are fonts, but they're all part of the typeface, which is Futura. That makes sense? So that's the way you think about our typeface. So in other words, when you're doing your poster, you can have up to three different typefaces. So in other words, you could have Futura, you could have Garamond, and you could have Gil. So you have three typefaces. But then each one of those typefaces has all these fonts within them. So, you can actually have quite a huge variety when you think of it that way. Or you could just decide to do your whole poster in one typeface, Futura, and then use all the different fonts within Futura to give you that hierarchy and variety, right? So those are a couple ways to think about type. So now, is that clear? Does everyone, because I think this is something that can be very confusing. I just want to make sure we're all getting what a typeface is. So typefaces are these choices when you select a typeface up here off of your menu. These are the typefaces. And then when you go down, these are the fonts. All right.
So it's kind of like a type family, like a
That,
family of, I think
that's
I've
right.
heard that before.
That's why we use that type family, because it helps you remember like your own family. You're all this, your whole family has the same, last name, let's say. And so all of your cousins, your brothers, your aunts, your uncles, they're all the fonts.
Got
Yep.
it. Okay.
Yep. So that's why I like to say it that way. It's typeface is like your family. The type family is Futura. And then these are the kids, this is Billy and Bobby and Julie and Jenny and right. So that's how it goes. And when you're choosing a typeface for a project that's going to have a lot of content, do you want to pick a small type family, just like an only child, or do you want to pick a family that has like 12 kids? Which is going to help you out more? You want the big family, right? You want the big, robust Irish Catholic family that has all these kids. That's what you want. Versus what I would say is the only child family is the display font. So a display font is one that you only use for very limited use. So there's the typeface like Futura. It has like, depending on the version of Futura you use, you can have up to 50 fonts. So, but let's say you want to do something a little more funky and different. So I'm going to use a display face, and a display font is, let's see, if I don't usually have a lot of display fonts in here. This would be one. Mardal. This is a display face. Okay, so this one, it's pretty funky, right? Pretty funky typeface. And when I go up to Mardal and I look, notice how it's an only child. There is no other fonts. Well, because it's a display face. So Mardal is something that you wouldn't want to read a paragraph of type with this typeface, right? That would be painful. Has no counters. It's very like funky. So this kind of typeface is only to be used for headlines or titles. You would never use it for body copy. You would never use it for anything small. It only can be used big. It won't work small. So that's what I call an only child. And so this Mardal typeface has one font, regular. That's it. That's all you get. So that is something to be aware of. Like if you see a funky face you want to use, that can only be used in like a big headliney way. Okay, so now that we have that little bit of type basics. Oh, did you have a question? Go ahead.
So would that be considered, that would just be considered a font then, not a type? Would it be both?
It's both.
It's just okay. I
It's
wasn't,
both. It's still a typeface.
yeah, but it's
It's
also
still
a
a
font.
typeface, but it's also a font. Well, so is any of these. Like I could call this, which is Futura Condensed Medium, is a font,
Yeah.
right? It's from the typeface Futura, but Futura Condensed Medium is a font. Futura, if I just say Futura blanket, that's a typeface because Futura has all these variables. So if I say
Okay.
Futura, that means I'm saying typeface. But if I say Futura Condensed Medium, that's a font. So
Okay.
Mardel works both ways. Mardel is a typeface. Mardel is a typeface. And Mardel Regular is the font.
Okay. I got it. It's just, Yeah. All right.
It's semantics. It's a little bit of semantics when it comes to a display face. But good questions, all good questions. Okay, so now that we have a little bit of basics of type, and for those of us who haven't had type class yet, and, this is one of the first semesters I don't have people in both classes. I teach type, and I'm teaching the semester type and design the same time, the same semester, I mean, and it's just funny to me because usually I have a lot of overlap, and this semester, I have no overlap. It's kind of funny. So some of you might have had type before. How many of us? Actually, I'm just kind of curious. Go ahead and put it in the chat if you did. How many of you have had type already or are in it right now? A type class. Either you're in it now or you've already had it. Oh, good. So some of us are in it. Okay, in it now. Okay, good. Okay, good. Okay. So let's go into, now that we understand a little bit about some of our type choices, let's talk about the type tools. So on the left here is the type tool, and it's a T. And when you hold it, when you click and hold it, you're going to see that it is, there's lots of little choices here that pop up. So let's just talk about if we use the type tool, and then we'll kind of go through some of these. So I'm going to grab the type tool, and I'm just going to click. I just clicked. It's going to pop up lorem ipsum. That's just what we call Greeking, and it's Greek text, meaning that it's just putting a placeholder text in until we actually put in the word or the type we're going to use. So it's going to actually notice how it's using the last typeface I typed in the program. So that's fine too. So let's move back to Futura. Book. Okay, so it's going to type in lorem ipsum. So I'm going to put my name because I know I'm going to put my name on my poster. So we have our name. So that's fine. I'm going to go back to the type tool, and I'm going to use the type tool a different way. So that time I just clicked. I can also click and drag and create a type box. Now that's what I'm going to want to use when I want to put a paragraph of type in. So if I want to put my paragraph of type in, it will, and you can see as I go smaller, it's kind of adjusting accordingly. And if I want to show an example of what my paragraph would look like, I can also go under type, and I can say fill with placeholder text. So I can fill it, and it's going to give me just placeholder text until I get my actual bio in there. Okay. So a couple things to know when you're working with a paragraph of type. First of all, we want to think about, we're using an 1117, and we want to think about, let me go to Window, Type, and I'm going to bring up the character. Oh, make sure you're in, you can bring in your workspace. You can bring in typography as another workspace. You can use layout or typography. If you bring in typography, it's going to have all your type tools right here. So you can adjust your workspace to be, we were in layout, I think last time we set this up, we can be in typography. And then that will allow us to bring in, it just brings all our type tools right here, our character, our paragraph. We're not going to get into styles, but we're going to just start with character. So character, I have Futura book. The type size we want to think about, depending on your poster, you probably, on a poster, don't want to go less than probably 12 point, because again, this is a poster, it's going to hang on a wall. It's not like it's something we're going to have real close to us. Remember, you need to see it at kind of like an arm's length, right? You need to see it from a bit of a distance. So even like something as big as 18 might be a good size. You want to make sure that your leading, which is what this is right next to it, set the leading, it's going to automatically set it. And I think for most part, we're probably going to leave it auto set. We're not going to get too much into making these changes at this point. And then there's things like leading and tracking. Those should probably stay at 0 as well. We don't really need to worry too much about any of that editing at this point. So saying both of those things, let me move this over. I can take my box that I've created and I can adjust the box, and you can see my type is going to reflow. When we're doing paragraph type, we can click on our paragraph tool here, and you can see we can talk about alignment. Well, alignment is one of our design tools, principles. So when we think about alignment, there's flush left, there's center, there's flush right, and then there's justified. And so flush left is the way we most naturally read. Let me zoom up so you can see this a little better. Flush left, this is flush left, meaning everything aligns to the left. That's how we most naturally read. Center is not comfortable to read because that means there's no even starting point on the left or the right. So where we would maybe use center type is in our title. So I might center my title so that I can do something like this. So on my poster, I can Command R brings my, or Control R brings your rulers up, and I can look at my layout here, and I might bring in a little rectangle to give me a center line. I like to use the rectangle tool. And then I go to my ruler and I pull a guide over, and that shows you my center line. And then I throw my ruler away. I delete it. I don't need it anymore. I just used it as a measurement. But when I make my type flush left, notice how it moves the way my type orients with my box. For a single word like my name, I would center my type, and then I create and I put the box, the 2 points on my box right on the center line I just drew. So now I know that's centered. Now, but for my body copy, it's really hard to read a lot of copy centered. So I would want to have my body copy flush left. I also want to avoid with body copy making my column really wide going across the whole page. Our brain can't read type going that wide, so we will lose our place. So we want to avoid really long widths. And so you probably never want your column to be more than half the page. So we want to make sure we're not doing that. And we don't want to get things too close to the edge either. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. So, kind of having your body copy be a smaller box of copy is a better way to kind of think about legibility and ease of use. You can still have it centered. And if you're really feeling like you want it to feel more like square, you can consider justifying your copy, which means it's equal on both sides. However, we can get these really terrible, what we call rivers through the middle, that are holes that are being made because it's pulling the words apart so that they fit edge to edge. So until you get really understanding typography, this is a really tricky thing to do well. So as we're still, a lot of us still in class or haven't had type class yet, I would avoid a justified setting at this point. There will be a point when you're very skilled in it, but at this point, I would stick to flush left for your paragraph, centered. You can definitely center your name, but that doesn't mean your name has to be in the center of your page. Your name can be, anywhere. You can kind of come up with balance and move things around, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's some basics. But I've heard one of the questions was, what about putting type in a shape? So let's look at that. Let's look at type in a shape. So I'm going to make a polygon. So I have a shape. I'm going to put it make it at an angle. But that's not really at an angle. Let's turn it. There we go. Okay, so here's my shape. And I want to put this type into this shape. So if we look over here, again, we have an area type tool. So I'm going to click on that area type tool, and I'm going to click. Hold on a second. I didn't click on my shape. You must click on a non-compound, non-masking path to create text inside a path. And I did do that. There we go. I didn't hit the edge. That's what it was. You have to hit the edge of the shape. So here I've put my type in the shape, and you can see that it's fitting the shape. Now, if you're going to put type in the shape, it's almost begging you to make it justified so you can see the shape. So that is kind of more of a place you would use justified type. But I do want to point out, again, it's still tricky because you've got these big holes. And the way you would deal with that is you select the type that has, these big holes, and then you need to go into your tracking and really kind of play with the tracking of those letters. But you got to be careful not to go too far, because then it gets kind of way different than the rest of the type. So it is a lot to kind of manipulate to get it looking good. So there's challenges with filling it, but that is really just pretty straightforward how you put your type in a shape. So we can also look at it in a circle. Let's try it again. So we go back to our type tool. We click the area type tool. We click, see how when I go, see how it has the I-beam with the circle around it? So I'm going to go right in and I hit the edge of the circle, and then it's fitting the circle. I can still go flush left, or I can say centered, but to actually have it look like the shape, you almost have to go justified. Otherwise, you really don't kind of see the shape that it's trying to make. But you get kind of weird things happening. So be aware, it's tricky. So, all right, so that is a type in a shape. A couple other things I'm going to show you. Another thing we can do is type on a line. So I'm going to take and create a line with my pen tool. I'm just going to create, an S curve. I'm going to make it a line. So here's my line. And I want to make my type go on this curve. Now this curve isn't great. I can go back in with my direct select tool and maybe make it a little less extreme so it would work better with type. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to go into my type tool, and then the third option here is called type on a path. So we're going to click on the line, and you can see my type goes and lays right on that line. Now it's fully editable. So I can go in here and say, okay, I want it to be Futura. I want to make it italic because we're moving along a line. So I want to make it italic so I can change the typeface. I can use my direct select tool and make adjustments to my line. So I can take my line and edit it with the type sitting on it. So that's what's kind of handy, is I can see how my type is sitting on it, and I can make adjustments and to the line, and that's using my direct select tool and editing the line. Okay, if I want to just move the line, of course, I just use my selection tool. So there's my type on a path. And then I might want to make my type go on a circle. So I can take, again, my type on a path tool and click, and it can go around the circle. So now we're not filling the circle, we're having our type go around the circle. Again, I can still change my type face. I can also change my type size. I can say, oh, actually, I want this to be big, like 50 point, and so then I can change it like flat. I'm going to go back to flush left. And, you might say, how do I, get it to where I want it? Well, you can rotate your circle so that your type is sitting how you want it. Okay. If you hold your shift key down, it goes in quarter segments, or you can freehand it. Okay, so there's my type. Let's say I'm going to make a copy of this. And let's say I wanted to go the other way. I'm going to select it. I'm just going to have it be lorem ipsum. Okay, stop filling. Okay, so I have one word, let's say. And I'm going to rotate it so it's up here. I want it to be all caps. So one of the things that the type tool will allow you to do is change your case without retyping it. So I can go up to type, change case, uppercase, and I can change the type case that we're using. So I have my hello, and then I'm going to grab another one. And this one, I'm going to say, goodbye. And I want it to go the other way, though. I don't want it to be on the top. I want it to be on the inside. So I'm going to go, excuse me, go up. Oop. First of all, I'm going to rotate it. So that's where I want it to be. Gosh, I just did this. Oh, here it is. Oh, sorry. So this little menu comes up. And then you can show properties panel. Okay, here's my properties panel. And now I can, with this, reset bar position. Oh, here it is. No, not that. Hold on. Show prop. Where is, oh my goodness, I'm blanking on. I literally just did this the other day and now it's not. Why can't I? All right, give me a second. I'm blanking. I don't know why I'm blanking on this. Maybe it's under. I want to flip it to the inside. Maybe I have to go under here. Let's see. Why is it not? Should be able to. No, I don't want to do that. I want to flip it the other way. Ah, that's what it is. Okay. They move these tools and I'm getting a little flipped out. So there's these little tools on the actual circle, which allows you to move these, whether they're on the inside or outside. So you see these little lines here. So that allows us to put, so for example, I can put our two circles together, right? So here I have both my circles together, and then I can also kind of arrange them. I think the problem, so to be, the biggest thing I struggle with, and you're going to see, is that I have 30 years of Adobe Illustrator in my head. And so as they change these tools and the way they function, I sometimes get tripped up because I'm so used to doing it a different way. So sometimes
I
it
would,
takes me a minute.
yeah, I was playing around with it too, and I just pulled that line that you found and it just
Mhm.
flipped it. I don't know if I was
That
doing
is the
it.
right way. Yeah, no, that is the right way. It used to be a control panel you had to open. So you used to, and that's why I kept looking for the control panel because we used to click a control panel and just say flip. Now it's much more intuitive. I mean, the
They made it
improvement is
easier,
they've made it easier,
but more
but I
confusing.
still in exactly. But for me, because I'm in my head, I keep thinking, oh, it's a control panel, forgetting that there are making things more user friendly for sure. And like always, you can still change the scale of it and the size, and you can still keep rotating this. So, like rotating this where you want it. So those are some of the cool things about putting your type on shapes, on paths, inside, outside the path. Let's see, what else do we have? So there is a vertical type tool, and I'm going to tell you, I'm not a fan of vertical type. Vertical type can be first of all, you never want to do vertical type in upper and lowercase. That's an absolute no-no. So if your design depends on vertical type, the rule that I'm definitely going to say is you need to change your case to uppercase. So if you're going to do vertical type, it has to be in uppercase only. Okay. But what I would say, if this is really what you want is vertical type, what I'd rather have you do is go back to our traditional type tool. We're going to go object. We're going to go to type. We're going to change the case to uppercase. And if you want it to be uppercase, I'm going to have you take it and rotate it and put it this way. Which one do you think looks easier to read?
I was trying to figure that out. So how did you do that again? You did the regular vertical type or to
This
to
is
get the
using the vertical type tool. So this first one was using that vertical type tool.
Mhm.
But what I would rather have you do is use the regular type tool, just the regular old type tool. What's going to design it horizontally. You can go ahead and change the case to uppercase. And then just grab the corner. I'm just to the corner of the box and I'm rotating it. I'm holding the shift key down to lock it vertical. And then we have it vertical.
Okay, I tried rotating that. Is so do you have to hit the shift key
Hold the
to
shift key down. Whenever you
okay.
want something to lock up perfectly vertical or perfectly horizontal, you want to use the shift key. Always hold the shift key and it locks it perfectly vertical for you.
Okay.
Okay. All right. But if you do this, you can only do all uppercase. Otherwise, it's a type crime and I'll give you a ticket. All right. Next, vertical. We're not gonna vertical type on a path. That's just don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do vertical area type. Don't do that. Like that's a no. That's a no. Um, this one is a brand new one. I don't know. I've not used the touch. Vertical type is a normal thing in other languages, correct? That's a good point, Jason. It is 100% for certain languages, but for the Western English language, that's a no. But you're absolutely right. If we were in Japan and we were doing everything in Japanese, it would absolutely be the way we would be communicating. This is a tool I'm going to tell you I have not used this little touch type tool. This is a new one. This is a brand new one, and I don't know it. So when I know it, I will share it with you. But at this point, I don't know it. I have to look into it a little bit. Maybe if we do the type, it'll give us a little thing about it. Let's do that real quick. We'll learn it together. Modify characters using the touch type tool. So what does this mean? The Touch Type tool lets you move, resize, rotate, and overlap individual characters by dragging. Select the Touch Type tool or press Shift T. Select a character. Drag any of the handles on the bounding box using the Touch Type tool to modify the character. Okay, let's try it. So I'm going to grab the A. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it. So I'm grabbing the A. Oh, and it's just changing the A. Look at that. So it's allowing you to edit and change one letter. I can move it off the baseline. Can I rotate it? I can scale it. I can make it wider. So it allows you to upper left kind of scale the character vertically, upper right handle proportionally, lower right handle scales the character horizontally. Oh, each one of these does a different thing. This scales it proportionately. Upper middle handle allows us to rotate it. Okay, that's kind of fun. That's a new tool. Not sure that I love it, but I guess maybe if you were doing the whole thing, like let's say you were trying to make something kind of super funky and crazy. So the top one rotates it. Well, the one thing I don't want you to do is what this is having us do, which is stretching letters. I want you to definitely, that's another type crime. So I don't want you to take it and stretch it, but you could go in the corners and make them different scale. You could rotate letters. I like the idea if I wanted to rotate letters, but it is going to affect your spacing, right? It's going to make your spacing a little wonky. And of course, then you're shrinking letters. You're kind of manipulating them in weird ways. You can move it off the baseline. Okay, now we know what this one does. But it's a little wonky. What do you think? What do you guys think? This is the Touch Type tool. Are we liking it? It's wacky, is right. It's definitely a wackadoodle thing.
I don't know when I would use it, but it's good to know it's there, I guess.
Now we know. This is a brand new tool. They just introduced this because I haven't even used it yet.
For my poster, I have like my letters coming out of the bucket, so I'm thinking I could try experimenting with it and see what it
There you
does.
go. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there might be a purpose for it in certain places. And the nice thing is it's all still very editable, right? Like we haven't turned it into outlines. So you can go in and still like, for example, let's just try something. So if we've made all these changes with the type tool. Can I then go in and change the typeface? So let's select my name, which I did all this editing. Let's change the type. Let's change the font to bold. Oh, look at that. So that's kind of cool. So the nice thing about this is it's allowing us to make all these funky edits and then still, change the typeface. So that's kind of a cool tool for that reason too. So yeah, so that might be fun for some projects. So that's the brand new touch type tool. So awesome. All right, so those are all the type tools. The ones I don't want you to use, right? No vertical type on a path, no vertical area type, and I'm not a huge fan of the vertical type tool, but I just am not a fan of vertical type. It's tricky. I mean, unless we're doing theater signage, I just don't see a reason for vertical type. So remember, if you're doing it in a shape, you got to think about justified text, and then you got to spend a lot of time editing it to make it look okay. Flush left, just to review, is our friend. We love flush left for body copy, and we want to make sure we don't make our columns too wide, right? We want to make sure our columns stay legible. Okay, so that's something to think about. We learned how to make our type on shapes. We know what display face is. We know what our typeface is and what fonts are. And let's see what else. And we know the touch type tool now. Okay, so I think the last thing I'm going to do is walk through this type menu up here. Okay, Adobe fonts are where we get our typefaces. So if we want to choose typefaces versus what's just on our system or just on our app, we absolutely do. We want to go in and look at typefaces. So we want to use Adobe fonts. That's part of our subscription to Adobe. So I'm clicking on the Show Me Adobe Fonts, and it's bringing me here to Adobe Fonts. Takes me right to Adobe Fonts. You might have to sign in if you haven't used this before. It might ask you to sign in, and that's fine. You'll see yourself. Here I am signed in. Okay. So you can do a couple things on Adobe Fonts. You can search by the name of a designer, a foundry, or keyword. So for example, what I might want is geometric typefaces. And so I'm going to choose geometric as my search word and see what comes up. Okay, so what's coming up are all the typefaces. When I say geometric, I mean like the O's are perfect circles, the A's look like triangles, the M's look like squares, like geometry. Okay, so let's say I'm looking through here and I can just zoom through, and let's say I decide the Stoltz is kind of one. I'm going to click on it because I want to look at it a little closer. They're going to give me some examples. And then when I go down here, I'm going to see the whole family. These are all the fonts. So you can see that there's a thin, a medium, a dark, it goes into medium and then bold. I can choose to add just one of these members of the family, so one font, and it gives you the hint here. It says add font, or I can go up at the top here and add the family, right? I can add the family. That means it's the typeface. So I can add the family, or I can add a font. So I'm going to go ahead and add the family because I like to keep the family together. I hate to break up a family. So I always bring in the family. That's the way I roll. I like to keep the family together. And then I say, okay. So Stoltz is our family. Let's go into Illustrator and check out Stoltz. So here we are. And I am going to check it out with my name. My name is super crazy now. And I want to see what Stoltz looks like. So I'm going to go down to the S's. It should be in here. I have a lot of S. There it is, Stoltz. There it is. So I just chose Stoltz, and it's showing me Stoltz bold, and I can say, okay, do I want to look at medium, regular, book, thin? Oh, let's try it in thin. Okay, so there's Stoltz in thin. Okay, so then I can now, and that just immediately instantly happens. So once I have chosen my typeface, it'll come right into Illustrator right away. So again, how I got there was I go to type, more fonts from Adobe Fonts, more from Adobe Fonts, and then I click on that. And then that's how it got me right into Adobe Fonts. Other ways you can look, I'm going to show you a couple other things in Adobe Fonts here. You can choose tags, like obviously Halloween, if you were doing something Halloween based, or if I wanted to say I wanted it to be rounded or luxury or fun, I can click view more, and they've kind of put things in categories. So let's say I want futuristic. Okay, so here I'm getting like kind of the futuristic-y looks. Okay, I can also choose a classification. Do I want it to be just sans serif? Or do I want to look at just serif? Or slab serif? Or script, whatever it is. I can also choose how many numbers of fonts in a family I want. So there's lots of ways you can customize your search. So just kind of play with this and you can kind of see lots of options. You can also see their recommendations. you know, what's going on, what's the newest and greatest, what's trending. I can look and see what's trending. I mean, there's just so many different ways you can search. What's new, what's brand new. That's kind of fun. So I can see all the new ones. So there's just, to give you a clue, there's about 4,000 typefaces here. So the reason I'm showing you all these ways to search is because no one has time to search 4,000 typefaces. So we got to narrow our search using keywords and descriptors to know what we want, right? So you know the look and feel of your idea for your poster. So, you know, do you want something fun? Do you want something like out of this world? Do you want something traditional? So those are kinds of things I want you to think about so that you can narrow your search down to find fonts that are what's right for you. And if you get kind of lost in this, you can always go back to this corner button here that says Manage Fonts, and go into open the Creative Cloud. I'm able to launch. Okay, I don't know why it's saying that. Adobe Fonts. Let's just go back to the Adobe Fonts home. And then we can look at recommendations. Just pick one. And then we can kind of keep going and looking. And the other thing they also tell you, just to give you a little bit more about it, they tell you who the designer is, the type foundry, how it works, how they recommend using it, what they recommend using it on, and then also fonts that would be like this typeface. So you could look at other options. So there's just as a very robust type way to look for type. I really like the way they've designed Adobe fonts. Okay, so I'm going to click out of that. I'm going to go back into Illustrator. Any questions about how to load fonts into our Illustrator? We all get that? Have we all done that before already? Are we all pretty familiar with that? Okay, seeing a couple thumbs up. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to pause here